Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the new screensavers is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. The new screensavers is brought to you by Whole Home. Whole Home is more than just a smart thermostat. Together with your smartphone and a smart plug, you can monitor anything you can plug in. For an exclusive 30% off limited time discount, visit wholehome.com/twit. And by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost automated investment service that is the most sophisticated way for you to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/NSS to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/NSS.
Cybersecurity expert Mikko Hyponnen, cooking for geeks, and should you eat that?
Live from Upper Cal Studios in beautiful downtown Petaluma, it's the new Screensavers!
Yeah! Woo! Way! It's the Screensavers, ladies and gentlemen. That is Padre, Father Robert Ballecer. Hey, Father Robert.
Oh, hey, Leo.
And I'm Leo Laporte, and we want to thank Steve from San Jose. He did a great job with the announce. I don't know who that pilgrim was with him.
Good-looking man, really.
Good looking.
Yeah.
Steve worked at Apple. He worked at Altera, and apparently now he's working for Intel. Congratulations on the new job.
The trifecta, my goodness.
Well,
okay.
Altera just got picked up by. Hey, so this is episode, I have to check here, 30.
30, yeah.
And this is airing Saturday, November 28th, 2015.
Happy Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving week. We're going to talk a little bit about Black Friday because it is over in theory, right? It was yesterday. I hope you got some good shopping done. Did you? You don't do Black Friday.
I don't do Black Friday. No.
You have a vow of poverty. You can't go out and get a big screen TV.
What am I going to do? I'm going to go out there and just watch people be mean to each other?
I know. That's the real thing that scares me. I've never done this. I've never gotten in line at a Target and gotten into fist fights. But, you can get really good deals, and I understand why people are motivated. I would urge you to think and strategize before you rush out to these events. Now, it's not over. In fact, a lot of these deals continue through the rest of the month. And, of course, Monday...
Cyber Monday.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it's more of a marketing thing. Yes, there is an uptick, but that gets spread out more and more. In fact, Amazon right now has already started their Black Friday
Exactly.
deal. So
right.
You could say it's Cyber Monday, but really it's just a way for them to psychologically say this is a big day on the internet for us. Samsung
started its big sale on the 15th, and it goes through the end of November. We were talking about it with Scott Wilkinson on the radio show last week. It's all their late models, it's all their current TVs, and they're all half off. So that tells you either, one of two things. Either they've hideously overpriced these things for years, or more likely they're moving them out for the next generation. They'll announce those in January at CES, and maybe they'll get them in the stores quickly. 4K TVs are really going through a revolution. There's a standard coming along. But if you want a 4K SUHD TV, I mean, Samsung.com, and you don't have to get in line or fight anybody or anything. You just go there and order. What do you do? How do you find the best deals?
Typically, there's a website I really like called Slick Deals.
Slick Deals. But that's all year round, isn't it?
That's all year round. The problem with Slick Deals is you will end up buying a lot of crap you don't need.
Yeah, see, this is my issue.
Just because it's a deal.
Right. It's like Woot or something, right? You just buy stuff that you don't, look, for instance, I really need a rigid mobile miter saw stand.
Well, Leo, fuzzy socks for $450. I mean, I don't wear those, but
man,
I can't pass up on that.
All right. So there are also apps that you can run. We talked on iOS Today earlier this week about there's Black Friday Ads has an app. There are a lot of apps out there that you can use. One thing I noticed, there was a Dell deal on there, wasn't there?
Ooh, yes.
Okay, so maybe hold off a little bit.
Dell is always on slick deals because they've always got product and people really, really like the prices they get.
Look what I'm using. This is my Windows laptop. I do have a Surface Book and I really love it, but this is the one I bought earlier this year. This is the Dell 13-inch. It's touch and everything. But you notice the story I have on here from PC World earlier this week. Dell, I can't believe they did this. After Lenovo got such heat, Dell installs self-signed root certificate on laptops, endangering users' privacy.
It really does deny logic. I mean, you think with everything that happened to Lenovo and the hate campaign that they're still getting, that the other manufacturers would have said, we're going to stay as far away from that as possible.
Dell's response, the certificate, it's called eDell Root, was added to Dell consumer and commercial devices starting in August. Dell says it's about it's hard not to say this without laughing. It's about better customer support. When a PC engages with Dell Online Support, the certificate provides the system service tag, allowing Dell Online Support to immediately identify the model. You know, every Dell is uniquely identified, making it easier and faster service. Now, surely there's a way they can do that without putting a self-signed root certificate. The problem with this is it gives bad guys a backdoor in your machine. If they perform a man-in-the-middle attack, they can create phony websites with a certificate, using this certificate, because Dell, by the way, uses the same signature and the same encryption key on every machine.
And because it's local, it means it's pretty easy for you to backwards engineer what the key is.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, if you've got a self-signed certificate that doesn't change, that's on the machine, I can sit in a coffee shop after I've backwards engineered your certificate, and I can now snoop on every session you've got running through your browser, you thinking it's secure, me going, no, not so much.
Robert Graham, who is a CEO of Errata Security, I think they discovered this, said, if I were a black hat hacker, here's what I would do. I'd immediately go to the nearest big city airport and sit outside the international first-class lounges and eavesdrop on everyone's encrypted communications. He says, I suggest international first class because if they can afford $10,000 for a ticket, they probably have something juicy in their computer worth hacking.
Or even go to the Starbucks in the Mission District in San Francisco, because there's at least 15 different startups that use that as their base of operations. I can figure out their IPO plans. I could probably get their email passwords. I mean, it really is a big deal. And what strikes me is that Dell responded saying, no, it's not a big deal. I mean, we're not doing what Lenovo did.
It's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal. But they figured because Lenovo was actually using their superfish to inject ads, and they're not doing that.
Oh, then that's okay.
It's okay.
But there's a huge security penalty.
Huge security hole.
Dell has said we're going to start removing it. You can remove it too if you go to your Windows Management Console and look for eDell Root in the Trusted Root Certificate Authorities. It shouldn't be in there. Yeah. It's safe to delete it. Dell says go ahead and delete it, and we're going to help people delete it. And there is a test website if you want to see if you're infected. It's bogus. I love this. bogus.lessonslearned.org. This was set up by another security expert, Kenneth White. Now, I'm going to go there right now on this Dell, and what you want to see is what I'm seeing right here, which is there is a problem. If you go right through, that means you have the phony root certificate on there, and you are able to go right through to the website because he's spoofed that eDell root certificate on his website. This is what you want to see. If you don't see that, then you really need to remove that Dell root certificate. That shouldn't be on there.
I actually have a review, a brand new XPS. I think it's a 13 or a 15. No, the 15, the larger one.
I love these. I think these are great.
I will try it when I get home, power it up, and see if I go through.
One more story before we get to our first question of the week. The clock kid, Ahmed, is back in the news.
Yes.
Ahmed, as you remember, is a 14-year-old. His first year in high school. He's a freshman. He thought he'd kind of show off. He's kind of a geeky kid, like probably you were at that age. Likes to put things together. He put together a digital clock. Actually, it looks like we think he took apart a Radio Shack,
and just put it in a case.
Put in a case, brought it in, showed his science teacher. Science teacher said, "Oh, that's nice, kid." Then showed his English teacher. The English teacher called the principal, and they brought him to the office. And now we're learning that as many as 5 Irving, Texas police officers, plus the principal and the vice principal, interrogated him, said, you may not call your parents, and worse, they pressured him to sign a confession that said, I did make a hoax bomb. And they said, you will not be allowed back in the classroom. You will be suspended if you do not sign this confession, and we're not letting you go home, and we're not letting you talk to your parents, and you do. Of course, you remember the backlash from it all.
Right.
The reason it's back in the news, Ahmed and his family went to Qatar to live. They felt it wasn't safe, and I think they were getting a lot of threats online, a lot of Twitter threats and things.
We were getting threats for him here.
We were getting threats for saying things about it. So it's ridiculous. So they fled to Qatar. They had a benefactor there, but they say, we want to come back to Irving, Texas, but we're suing because we want his reputation cleared and we want $15 million.
Well, let's be clear. The only way you get a district like this to pay attention is when you attach a dollar sign to it. Because a lot of people are saying, oh, well, this kid didn't even make a clock. That's not
the issue.
That's not the issue at all. The issue is, was that due process? And that absolutely, anyone looking at this says, there's something wrong with that. You cannot deny a minor access to his parents, access to representation, and then essentially tell him, if you don't sign this confession so that we are off the hook legally, we're not going to let you see them. We're not going to let you go back into class. There's so many levels of wrong about this story.
There's no dispute at this point that the teacher thought it was a bomb. She did not.
Nope.
In fact, she took it and put it on her desk at first. She didn't think it was a bomb, but they thought he was trying to hoax them and the school, that the kid's a Muslim, his parents were from Sudan, he's from Sudan. In fact, his father, I didn't know this, ran for president in Sudan. And they thought he was trying to scare people. They wanted that confession, but they broke the law doing it. I don't think this is going to be a tough case for them to pursue. Of course, Irving School District's response is, we're going to respond as appropriate as with any legal matter, but we're not offering a comment at this time. But I thought we'd bring that back just because we're getting more details about what happened. And I've got some people tweeting saying, well, see, I told you. What? No.
Yeah.
I mean, they had 5 cops and the principal, vice principal demanding that he sign a confession. That's not exactly the tactics we want to have happen in our high schools.
I've gotten a dozen tweets from people saying, well, his sister was in trouble for a bomb hoax a few years ago, and then he's suing for $15 million. Therefore, he must really be wrong. It's like, neither of that, none of that means anything in this case.
This is something they do all the time. All right, enough of that.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Clear minds.
It's time for
A call for help.
And Chris is on the line from, and you better pronounce this for me, is it Antipolo?
Antipolo.
Antipolo City in the Philippines. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Leo. Hi, Father Robert.
It's great to see you. Welcome to the show. Look at that beautiful artwork. Is that from somebody in your family? That's beautiful.
That's my wife. My wife's.
She's a talented artist. I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's just a cross stitch made by my wife.
So what can we do for you?
Okay, so I'm currently subscribed to internet plan that limits me to 30 gigabytes per month. And lately, I noticed that I've been reaching the limit significantly faster than usual. So what used to take me about a month to use up all the limit now just took me less than 2 weeks. And so what I did was I signed up for a booster plan that extended it for another 10 gigabyte, activated it around 10 a.m. On a weekend, and it has reached 6 gigabytes by 5 p.m.
Oh man!
So
you're almost out again.
Yeah, and I did not stream any movies that day. I limited the network to allow connection to 4 devices only, PC, Windows, and PC, to mobile phone and tablet, mainly used for browsing and occasional games, perhaps. And the PC might have downloaded an update, mobile.
Well, and as you know,
but that's just about it.
Are you running Windows 8, 9, 10, 11?
Windows 10.
Yeah. So so there was a big update. There was a several gigabyte update for the fall update for Windows 10.
Okay.
So first of all, a couple of things I want to say, and I'm going to let you take over. Shameful. 50 gigabytes a month is ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
I use that a day.
And many of the internet, now I don't know what the situation is in the Philippines, but Comcast is implementing a 350 gigabyte limit here in the States. And really this, in my opinion, at least when Comcast does it, this is a grab for power. This isn't about, oh, we don't have enough bits. We've got to conserve our bits. That's not the issue. They've already paid for the infrastructure. The internet data itself is cheap to them. This is all about saying, well, you better not use streaming on Comcast. You better pay for those premium channels on our cable. In fact, Comcast, they say, well, we have a streaming service, but that comes in over the cable portion. That's not the data, so we're not going to count that. It's so obviously anti-competitive It's amazing to me that the FCC hasn't stepped in at this point. I don't know what's going on in the Philippines, and it's true in rural areas, maybe that you don't have the infrastructure, and they do have issues getting all that data to you. But there are ways that you could figure it out. Windows 10 has a way, you know.
Windows 10 has a way. The problem with that is that it will only tell you on that machine. So it can tell you on that machine how much bandwidth that you've consumed.
Right.
What Chris is running into is he's starting to go over the cap with multiple machines. You've got tablets, you've got laptops, you've got a desktop.
Who doesn't these days?
Who doesn't? Yeah, everyone's got multiple devices.
Phones.
Luckily, there's a very easy and inexpensive way for you to start monitoring the amount of data that you use, both upload and download, and it's probably built into your router. Now, Chris, do you know what type of router you might be using?
It's actually provided by the ISP.
Of course it is.
I've checked the settings already, and I believe there's a way, but it doesn't give me the amount of details of information that I would like to check.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust it. That's probably not so accurate.
Yeah.
Here's what I would do.
And that's
find yourself an inexpensive DDWRT compatible router.
Those are great, and they're cheap.
And they're super cheap. Even like a Linksys WRT54G, that's like a 10-year-old router. It will run this open source software. And what it will do, and actually we'll have this up on the stream so that people can see what it looks like. It has an interface that once you get into it, it will allow you to find out how much data you've both pushed out and brought in.
Here, should I give you this so we can see your screen?
Oh, they've got it on the TriCaster.
Oh, they're so smart.
Exactly. So it's going to be in status in your interface screen, and will allow you to actually break down by day and by month how much data that you've been pulling, and that is far, far, far more accurate than the number you're going to get off of your cable provider's router. So that's the easy way. So let me ask you. Do you want to do the non-easy way?
My way was the easiest way, but it's only for one machine. You know, you go to the task manager, you hit Control-Alt-Delete, and you can actually see which applications are using bandwidth. And I think this doesn't require a router modification. It's certainly worth checking to see. I don't have any running apps, so I can't. But you can see when the apps are running how much bandwidth they're using. That would be worth at least monitoring that, right?
Right.
There's another thing you can do if you're using Wi-Fi, which is to tell the Wi-Fi this is a metered connection. Because one of the things Microsoft does, for instance, on non-metered connections, and yours is definitely metered, is it will use you to help other people download Windows 10. It's kind of like a peer-to-peer sharing service. So your bandwidth may be being used by Microsoft to help other people download Windows 10 and the Windows 10 November update. So you definitely want to tell it, look, this is a metered connection, and on any machine that you've got that you could do that, I would do that at least, right?
Right. There is one other thing, though. See, that will give you aggregate. But if you wanted to find out what devices are using up all your bandwidth and what they're doing with it, so if you wanted to find out if it's Netflix or it's YouTube or Twitch that's sucking up all of your cap, you can run a very inexpensive setup using what's called Wireshark. It's a free software.
You're gonna make him use. Ooh,
yes.
Now you're gonna be a pro hacker.
This
Chris.
is pro. This is completely free, and there's versions of this for Mac, for PC. So you find the version that you like. What you do need is you're gonna need a tap. Now there's a couple of ways to do it. One is cheaply with something like this. This is an 8-port 10 megabit per second hub. Now what this will do is it will allow me to repeat the traffic to everything. So I can hook up another laptop to it, and it now can see all the traffic that flows between the network and outside.
So this you hook up to the router provided by your internet service provider.
Right, and then this to
the laptop,
your networks.
running Wireshark on one of the laptops on here?
Just one, right. And what that will give you, and again, we've got a video here that we're going to be showing to the stream so that you can see how it works, is since it's capturing all the traffic, not only will you be able to see exactly how much data every single client is using.
This is the slick way to do it.
But you'll be able to see, did my son use 20 gigabits watching Netflix?
Right.
Or did my wife use 30 gigabytes looking at Facebook? Because it gives you all the destinations. So yeah, it's a little more complicated, but if you watch episode 84 of Know How, we did a step-by-step.
And you can see right there how it has all the information you need. Wireshark is a very useful tool.
So useful.
A lot of times you'll hear, in fact, people saying, oh, Windows 10 is phoning home. How do they find out? Wireshark, right?
Run it through a tap.
Yep. They're watching.
Listen in.
That's hardware that does it?
Oh, this is an expensive one. This is gigabit tap, so I can listen to everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A port aggregator
Port
tap.
aggregator tap. So Chris, which way do you think you're going to go?
I'll probably try the first option, and then if push comes to shove, I'll try the second option.
If you got.
I'm familiar with the wire shark.
Oh, good.
Oh, okay.
If you're watching this show, we're going to assume that you're kind of geeky.
A lot.
A lot. Hey, have you been to Antipolo City?
Of course.
Beautiful?
Wow.
Depends what time of year.
Yeah. A little
Yeah.
hot?
When it gets rainy or hot, it's not great.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Yeah. Well, next time you're there, you got to look up Chris.
I'll be by, Chris. Save me some what do I like? Oh, adobo. Do you make good adobo?
My wife makes a very good.
I bet she
I'll
does.
be
If
there.
she could paint that way, she could make. And I'll have some balut. Thank you very much.
No.
No, I won't. No. Hey, Chris, nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Leo.
Take care.
Thank you, Robert.
See you later.
It's been a pleasure.
How do you say see you soon or, geek on and Tagalog?
I just say mabuhay.
Mabuhay. I know that one.
There we go.
Take care. Mabuhay.
Bye-bye.
See you later. If you want to be on the show like Chris, it's easy. Here's how.
Need tech help? The new screensavers are here with answers. Email your tech questions to newscreensavers@twit.tv.
I always love it when you do this show with me. Thank you for joining me.
Oh,
It's
I
so
love
much
it.
fun.
Are you kidding me?
You're such a geek.
You know,
that whole wire shark, I got to tap and all that stuff.
Wireshark is a crazy
hardcore.
powerful network tool.
Do people still use Nmap for pen testing?
We
Is
just
that-
showed that off on Know How.
Did you? I
Oh,
figured. Yeah. Those are, if you know Nmap and Wireshark,
That's pretty much it.
you're good. You can look at network traffic and really know what's going on. Right?
Exactly. I mean, you find out what ports are open, you find out what services are available, and then you use Wireshark to find out who's talking to who.
Yeah. You know then everything you need to know. Hey, speaking of that, there's one thing you probably want to know a little bit more about. That's your energy usage. Nowadays, it's so expensive. Electricity rates going up and up and up. And of course, one of the ways we save money is by turning the heat down and down and down. But winter's coming. Maybe you don't want to do that. I've got a great solution for you. This is from the folks at Energate. It's called Whole Home, HOLHOM. And I know we gave one to you, Father Robert.
Yes.
And I've installed one too at our house. It's a teaching thermostat. The kids should see this, actually. An energy gateway. It'll save you money by displaying your power usage in real time. In fact, this little gauge here is so cool. This green gauge lights up as your power costs go up. So if energy saving is active, it'll go down. If premium price power is coming into your house, it'll go up. You know immediately just from looking at the front of it exactly what's going on. Whole Home uses a proprietary algorithm to constantly optimize your heating and cooling for savings and comfort. You're going to save a lot of money, and you can go on the website where your Whole Home account is and learn even more about your power usage and your energy manage. Example, an Oklahoma customer who installed the Whole Home watching our ad they say they're going to save about $150 a year with energy management, and they're not going to freeze in the winter or burn up in the summer. And now I want to show you this. This is the new Home Load Smart Plug that lets you see your energy breakdown by individual appliances. Plug in any device, your refrigerator, your home theater system. You can even plug in a whole power strip into this thing and see what's going on. And then the Whole Home mobile app for Android or iOS will let you not only control the system from any room while you're away from home, but also you'll see how things are going. You can really see, I think knowledge is power in this case. Puts you in control, and you don't have to look at the manual. You can actually set up your Whole Home thermostat and your Whole Home Home Load right from the application. You don't have to read the manual. Just answer questions like what time do you get up on a typical day, and Whole Home will pair also. This is nice if you have a Zigbee-enabled smart meter. Many states now have these. You don't need to install special equipment in your breaker panel to capture your energy consumption. You can actually communicate via Zigbee with the smart meter. You'll know more about your electricity than your utility does. If you live in an area without a Zigbee smart meter, Whole Home Plus includes a meter data collector that you attach to the electricity meter that will gather energy consumption information for you. So they've really got it down. Do visit the website. You can actually take a look at what you have, compare what you have to these pictures, and really see what Whole Home can do for you. Whole Home, powered by Energate. They're a leading supplier of utility-grade interactive energy management solutions. Secure, you bet. Reliable, absolutely. Up to now, only available to utility companies. Now you can get it in your home. Save energy and money with Whole Home. Start seeing your energy use in real time today. Control your heating and your cooling. Monitor any appliance in your home. It's HOLHOM.com/twit. And by the way, we've got a 30% discount for you, but that's for a limited time. So don't delay. The snows are coming. HOLHOM.com/twit. And we thank them for their support of the new screensavers. I'm going to talk with one of my heroes in a little bit. Do you know about F-Secure? Of course you do.
Of course, yeah.
And Mikko Hyponnen.
Yes.
For the longest time, in fact, I think he was one of the very first antivirus and virus researchers. He's a guy I've been following, I've talked to find out about security. He's got some surprising tips in some cases on how to keep your computer safe in just a bit. But first, Johnny Jett, our travel guru, has a tip for... Balut, is it safe? I don't know. Let's find out. Johnny Jett will tell us how you can find out. Can I eat this?
Hey, I'm Johnny Jett from JohnnyJett.com. A cool new travel app is called Can I Eat This from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. So a big dilemma for travelers going overseas is, can I eat this food or drink something? Well, to find out, you download this app. It's free. And they have from every country from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe. So let's, for example, just take Afghanistan, the very first one. So you're eating or drinking. We'll just do drinking this time. It says, does it have ice in it or does it not have ice in it? I'll tell you, if it has ice in it, they're going to say, don't drink it. So let's go and see what they say. You probably shouldn't drink it. Sure enough. That's pretty much a general rule, by the way, when you're traveling to third world countries, is never drink anything that has ice in it. Also, we can try a different country. One of my favorite countries to dine in is Singapore. So let's hit Singapore, and we're going to go eating. By the way, if you've never been to Singapore, you got to go because they have Indian food, Malay food, Chinese food is the best. So we're going to hit meat. We're going to eat meat. Is it raw or cooked? I can tell you if it says raw, they're not going to do it. So let's do cooked. It's going to say, was it served hot or did I get it from a buffet? Let's say buffet. They say if it's been sitting out, you should not eat it. So to double check before you eat something, check out CDC's Can I Eat This? I'm Johnny Jett from JohnnyJett.com.
Hey, I want to welcome somebody who I've been a fan from afar for so long, literally 25 years. He's the Chief Research Officer at one of the foremost security and privacy companies in the world. From Helsinki, Finland, Mikko Hyponen is joining us right now at the F-Secure Labs. Mikko, great to talk to you. I know it's late at night in Helsinki, so I won't keep you up. But I want to thank you so much. And we just completed a longer interview, and I'm going to point everybody to the triangulation interview, which was fascinating. But I think, given our limited time here on the new screensavers, what I'd really like to know is, what are best practices today for people who are using, we'll start with a computer, not a mobile device, but a computer on the internet. What is the best practice? What should people be doing?
Oh, I always tell people that the first thing you do is that you back up your systems. Back up your computers and back up everything else where you store data, and back it up so that you can actually recover it even if your house burns down or if you're a company.
Off-site backup.
Yeah, off-site backup. That's the first thing you do. The first thing isn't about running security software. The first thing is about backing it up.
That feels like capitulation. That feels like saying, I know they're going to get me, but at least I'll have a backup.
Well, but that's the ground you're standing on. If everything else fails, then you have to have the backups, and that's where you start from.
Okay.
And the second thing isn't, security software either. The second thing is patching. Make sure your systems are up to date. Not just the operating system, but also the browsers, the applications. Not just your computer, but also your tablets, your phones. Updating and patching. Make it automatic. Make sure it's all working. And then, and only then, you start thinking about security software. And then you really should be thinking about layers, like having different kinds of solutions. Have something that will make it easier for you to manage your passwords across your systems. Have a real good antivirus solution, something that gets automatically updated and actually provides also functionality like trying to block automatically exploits. and then have something that encrypts your network traffic, so like a VPN service. And that's a good groundwork for a secure system.
Of late, I've been saying, and I notice a lot of security experts do not run antivirus software. And I've been wondering if you really need antivirus software anymore. Doesn't Windows 10 come with Microsoft Defender?
Microsoft Defender is there, and it does handle the glut, the basic malware which is the most common malware Microsoft sees. It's not going to handle everything, and this is easily shown by independent studies. And antivirus is still useful. Antivirus isn't dead. The old kind of antivirus which tried to detect every single malware with a static signature, well, that's dead, but it's been dead for 10 years already. Today's antivirus is much more evolved than that. We actually have generic protection for whole ranks of exploits, for whole ranks and types of antivirus families. We're not trying to detect every single one of them with a static signature. We're trying to detect whole families, and we successfully are able to defend users every single day.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned as part of your security layers a password vault. I've used and recommended LastPass for a long time. A lot of us are a little concerned. Steve Gibson's going to give us, I'm sure, some alternative choices on security now. But now that LastPass is sold to a company we don't know as well, we may not trust as well, are there alternative, well, wait a minute, you guys make a password vault, right?
Yeah, we have a password vault called F-Secure Key. Which I like F-Secure Key because not just because it's our product, but it's also something that we don't actually have the passwords ourselves. We don't store any of your information. All the information is stored on your own devices, and then it's encrypted and synced through our services between your devices. So, we can't lose your password no matter how badly we would screw up.
And people do need to generate such long random passwords that they'd be impossible to memorize. In fact, I guess if you could memorize your password, it's probably not a good password.
I think all the guidance you get about good passwords is wrong. I mean, it's all written like 10 years ago, let's say 20 years ago, when you had like 5 different passwords to remember. Like they're telling you to never use the same password in 2 different sites and always make them very long, never write them down.
Right.
Well, this is sort of trying to create passwords which are impossible for humans to use, which means people will write them down. People will recycle the passwords. The right advice is to use a password manager. So then you don't have to remember them. And it's not up to you to make a different password for every single site.
Well, let me actually, now that I'm going to try it, because I am looking for an alternative to LastPass. So F-Secure Key, will it run on Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, all the platforms that I use?
Yes, it will.
Okay. And then the password vault, you say, is encrypted, strong encryption. It is stored on your server. That's the only way that we could share it among multiple devices.
It's actually synced through our server. So the actual passwords are stored in encrypted vault on your own devices.
Oh, interesting. So they pass through your server, but they're not stored in place on your servers.
Which means we can't lose your passwords.
Oh, that's interesting. We've seen a lot lately of breaches. Even LastPass had a breach. And, of course, so many companies now, the password store is leaked. But they always say, oh, don't worry, it's salted and hashed.
Right.
Is that enough?
Well, it's better than nothing. I mean, it's good that it's salted and hashed. It's going to make it hard to crack the protection, but wouldn't you prefer that the password would not have been there to begin with?
Yeah.
That's the way we think about it.
Can I make a suggestion? You write a interpreter that will import the LastPass password store into F-Secure Key?
Well, I'm not actually sure. We might actually even have that. I actually don't know. I'll check that.
We'll check that out. I like the idea that you don't actually ever store in place. You just become an intermediary for the transfer of the password. And so you kind of do a synchronization so that it's up to date on all the devices, but they're always stored locally, never stored on F-Secure servers.
That's right.
That's great. So somebody would actually have to kind of break into your system and break the SSL connection between me and you to even attempt to get to my stuff. Good, I like that. Who's winning, bad guys or good guys?
Bad guys always have an upper hand, and that's one of our headaches. I mean, if you are writing new malware, the first thing you do before releasing your malware is to download all of today's antivirus programs and see if it's detected or not. And if it is detected, which is likely, then you will just modify it and retry until you have created a piece of malware which is undetectable by today's products, which always gives you a little window of opportunity to infect new users before antivirus products catch up. So it's not really a fair war between us virus fighters and virus writers, because they have access to our weapons.
Do you still get to every once in a while disassemble malware and peek into it?
I've been analyzing malware for so long that I still want to keep my hands dirty. And I did reverse engineering for years and years, but I got to admit to you that today's complicated 64-bit environments are a bit of a handful for me to handle anymore. So I don't actually do binary reverse engineering, but I do occasionally take the time to look at, for example, JavaScript exploit kits just to figure out how it works.
Yeah.
Just to keep my hands dirty, so I still understand what's happening in the field.
I got to ask you, what browser do you use?
No, it's a great question. It's a trick question, which I will not answer. Because why would I tell you? That just makes me a target.
Oh, man. Okay. What
Nice
else?
question. Next question.
I love that. Yeah, so the less the bad guys know about your system, your operating system, your browser, the more difficult it is to hack you.
Well, you have to understand, I am a target in the sense that
Of course you are, yeah.
I do work with criminals. So these guys don't like me. Some of them are trying to get at me. So
Wow.
I'm trying to practice good operational security. I'm not telling you what operating system I'm using or what browser I'm running.
Interesting. Well, then I want to ask you what I should do, but I guess that would be a giveaway too, wouldn't it? We'll just have to leave that as a question for the ages. Mikko Hyponnen, I thank you for the 25 years of good work you've done, almost 25 years of good work you've done at F-Secure. I thank F-Secure for helping secure privacy and data for so many years and doing such a great job. And I have to say, and I said this on Triangulation, it's important, that you trust the company that the security company you work with, because you're in effect putting your life in their hands, your data in their hands, and I do trust F-Secure. So I'm really glad you guys are doing the good work you're doing.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you so much for joining us on the new Screensavers. Thank you, Mikko Hyponnen. That was a part of a larger interview we recorded, part of the Triangulation show. So go back and look at do we know what episode of Triangulation that was? You just go to twit.tv/TRI to see the whole thing. He is great. I want to have him back soon. Meanwhile, you have an interview here I can't wait to see.
It's about food. You could have guessed that one.
Yeah. The author of Cooking for Geeks. We're going to talk about culinary science. But here's my favorite tech journalist who wears a bow, Lauren Hawkinson. She's going to talk to you about something called Google Translate. Lauren?
Hi, I'm Lauren Hawkinson, San Francisco reporter at The Next Web. You can find me on Twitter at @LHawkinson. That's LHOCKENSON. And I'm here to talk to you about Google Translate. Let's say you're traveling through Europe and you come across a sign that you don't understand in a language that you can barely read. Now, I maybe have 2 years of Spanish under my belt at best. So what I like to do is download Google Translate to my smartphone. It is local, it doesn't require Wi-Fi or 3G, and I can look at any sign in their supported language and it will translate it automatically to English for me to read easily. I can also use their language translator to ask a question to someone who doesn't know English in their native language really easily and quickly. You can download it on iTunes, Apple App Store, and also on Google Play. And I highly recommend it the next time you travel. And you can find me on Twitter at @LHawkinson. Again, that's LHOCKENSON. Thanks.
A material scientist, a coder, and an engineer walk into a bar, and they come out well-fed. To explain why they came out well-fed, we are here with Jeff Potter from Cooking for Geeks. He is the author of a book for people who want to know why science, engineering, and cooking go hand in hand. Jeff, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, this is an interesting topic. It's an interesting crossover. Our audience, obviously, is very tech-oriented. They're very science-oriented. But you make the leap, the jump. You say, look, if you are a minded person for engineering and for science, you should have the same mind for cooking.
Absolutely. What happens in the kitchen is, well, my background is actually computer science,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
So, computer science is, as most of the sciences are, about figuring out how something works and building a model in your head that says, hey, this thing works this way. If I do this, then this will happen. And the same thing is true in the kitchen. If you understand how things work and why they work, when you walk into a kitchen, you can have something come out the way you want it to.
Now, that sounds like something that should be elementary. I mean, yeah, it totally makes sense. A recipe for cooking is the same thing as the procedures for coding, or the instructions I follow when I'm building something, or a procedure I might have as a chemist for making certain chemical changes. But we don't naturally make that. I mean, I know a lot of geeks whose idea of good food is a hot pocket that's not too hot.
So there's a magic force field around the kitchen that turns people's rational, normal thinking process off and switches on the, I must exactly follow this recipe, step 1, step 2, step 3. And so much of this book is about getting people to go, wait, no, you don't have to follow a recipe. Understand why it's working this way. Go in and don't just have a Hot Pocket for dinner or pizza or whatever. Figure out how to make a really awesome pizza, or figure out how to make your own Hot Pocket without just grabbing one from the freezer section, and hack it, tweak it, play with it, figure out how to adapt it. Why does it work? How can you make it more delicious?
I think that's the part that's off-putting, because for a person who is scientific, to always hear that cooking is an art, that for me, that kind of pulls me away. I'm thinking, well, I'm not artistically minded. I have no creative side that tells me what I should try, what different ingredients. And so I look at cooking as, no, that's for creative people. That's not for science people.
It's both an art and a science. And the exciting part is to delve into the science. So how much coding do you do? How much software do you get into? How much tech stuff do you get into? And there's art and there's science in creating software. So there's art and there's science in creating food. So, you dig into the science of the food bit, and then the art will come later. But you have to figure out how to actually get, the science part of it down so you can go in and begin to experiment. I mean, if you're going to start with technology and you don't know how to actually write basic code, it's really hard to actually come up and write some new amazing app or something. But you get that base level figured out, and then, hey, suddenly you can start experimenting. So there's not that much in the food stuff that you need to start with. But a few kind of basic things, and you can go off and start experimenting and having tons of fun, actually.
All right, let's get into the science, because our folks like to get their hands dirty, and hopefully we've piqued their interest.
Literally dirty.
They're literally dirty, and they're thinking, okay, I can do this. You did a segment with Sci-Fry on eggs, and it was eye-opening for me. It's what made me and my producer want to interview you, because it really is material science. Can you tell us a little bit about the science of a perfectly cooked, peelable egg?
Oh, Lordy, I think one could probably teach an entire course just on eggs alone. So let me ask, do you like to cook?
Yes.
Do you cook eggs?
I do.
How do you cook your eggs?
Typically easy over.
Easy over. Okay, so what's happening when you crack that egg into the pan, you heat it up, and at some point you flip it over and you put it on the plate? What's actually happening to that egg in that process?
Well, I know that the whites will actually turn white. They'll harden as I apply more heat. So it goes from a gelatinous goop to something that's a bit firmer. And if I do it right, the yolk will stay mostly liquid. So that's about as far as my material science goes with eggs.
So this is kind of the magic model in my head. The magic model is what happens when you put cookie dough into the oven, it magically turns into a cookie. What happens when you crack an egg into a pan is it magically turns white and kind of gets thicker. But that's the model that we talk about in the food world and kind of general society without getting into the science. But the better model here is to say, hey, that egg's got a bunch of proteins and fats in it. And when you heat those proteins up, they denature. They go from a native state that's all coiled up and kind of, you described it as, I think, gloppy and gelatinous.
Gloppy, yes.
Yeah, gloppy, right?
That's ingredients.
And you said it turns white and hardens. It actually doesn't harden. It just changes kind of from being one gel state to a tighter gel state that's, still flexible, but, changes in some aspects with with respect to how those proteins are actually structured. But the actual thing that's happening there is as you heat those proteins up, they begin to denature. And an egg, your chicken egg, has a couple dozen different proteins, and those different proteins denature at different rates and at different temperatures.
Oh, okay.
So what you've got a couple dozen different proteins, and they start to go, say, 140 degrees up to, say, 170 degrees. Hand-waving numbers here, easier to remember. Different proteins set and begin to denature in that egg when you crack it in there. So your over-easy egg is about getting some of those proteins to harden, to use the word that you liked, and then to keep some of the other ones, a lot of the ones in the yolk actually, from actually denaturing and turning hard like a hard-cooked egg would have them. So that egg that you crack into that pan, it's really about the temperature that you're getting that egg itself up to. And how you heat that egg doesn't matter, although frying pan with some butter is probably the more delicious way. So yeah, there's a lot of different things you can like tease out there. But the real thing is like, hey, now you've got this model that says, hey, proteins denature at certain temperatures. You get those proteins up to that temperature, and how you do it doesn't really matter. And you're going to get a change in the texture based on those different things. So next time you go to cook an egg, you can think about, hey, what temperature do I need to hit? Somewhere in the 140 to 160 degree range, a little bit hotter. More of those proteins will denature, a little bit colder. You'll be a little bit runnier. And now you can like play with all the different variables. Like, how can I heat this?
I don't think I'll ever look at an egg the same way now. And that actually does make sense. I mean, there is some sort of chemical process that is taking place when I'm adding heat to the ingredients in my omelet. And it completely makes sense when you're saying, look, there's something's happening to the proteins. And if you understand what will happen to the different proteins at different temperatures, you can get really creative. Now It's not just sunny side up, boiled or scrambled. You can say, hey, you know what? I wonder if I could just affect these proteins. How would I do that? That's the science coming into the cooking.
That's the science. And there are folks, there's a great food scientist in the UK, Cesar Vegas, who's done all the calculations for all the proteins specifically. He's got a website. You can go literally dial in what texture you want your yolk and your white to be. You can actually cook an egg so the white and the yolk are both kind of plastic like mayonnaise if you get them to exactly the right time and the right temperature. I mean, like you can go so far down the rabbit hole that it's like, okay, now we're just getting super geeky and going to say, okay, can I simulate the protein denaturation and the rates and, come up with like a calculator for exactly what texture you want?
Right.
Totally doable.
All right, let's move away from eggs because there is one other thing that I've heard that you were a part of, cooking a 500-pound donut.
Guilty as charged.
Okay. Now, obviously, and our audience is savvy enough to know that cooking a 500-pound donut isn't the same as cooking a tiny little donut whole.
No.
There's a lot of science that goes into it. What happens when you scale up something like that?
Well, you get into really tough problems because heat transferring through something like donut batter, again, it's that model that we think of, we heat it up and it magically turns to a cooked donut. No, it doesn't. As you heat something like donut batter up, it begins to set, and the rate of heat transfer through the batter actually changes as it changes into cooked donut. So you got little air pockets in there from
it
carbon
insulates
dioxide.
itself.
Yeah, it insulates, exactly. So what happens if you need to get heat to the middle of something when it's now covered in 5 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches of insulated donut? I mean, it sounds crazy, but you get a problem where it's like, okay, I've got this 6 foot, I have a 6 foot diameter torus with a wall that's like, 2 feet at that point, if you're going for a nice Homer Simpson style donut. And like, that's just a tough material science challenge. I phoned in a couple of favors to figure out just like the heat rate transfers through that material. It turns out to be like literally college level, quasi PhD level. Okay, so you've got a torus made of this material with this kind of heat transfer, and you're putting 1 million BTU of heat into it from burners on the bottom, and it's on top of a dumpster that's been sandblasted and then welded shut. I mean, it's stainless steel.
Yeah,
that's like the same thing as a wok. It's the same material, even though it's a dumpster. It's metal. Okay, that makes sense. There's some tough science in there.
That's all pretty high level thermodynamics.
It was actually above my pay grade.
Oh, wow.
I had to phone that one into some friends because, right, there's no textbook for this.
Yeah. Of course, people want to check out Cooking for Geeks. I mean, this is the source. If you want to start experimenting with food the same way you experiment with your maker, your DIY stuff, you're definitely going to want to pick this up. But I want you to leave our audience with some words of wisdom. If they are a geek and they're tired of microwave food and they're tired of just really basic stuff that they can cook, and they're looking to get in to doing something a bit more creative, what bit of advice could you give them? What wisdom would you like them to walk away from this interview with to say, hey, you know what, I can do this?
I would say there's probably really 2 or 3 key things to understand in cooking. One, it's the temperature of the food itself that matters. If you put it into a really hot oven versus a kind of medium oven, the reactions in that food are based on the temperature that the food itself is at. So don't think about the temperature of the environment, think about the temperature of the food. That's really important. The second is things like weight and temperature are easy to measure. Measure them. Use a good probe thermometer. Use a digital weight scale. Don't bake using measuring cups. Bake using a gram scale. If you've got an oven that you think's at 350, get a probe thermometer. Like when I cook fish, if I get some salmon and I cook it, I stick a probe thermometer into it and I set it to beep at 130 degrees. It's like a 2 or 3 foot long cable snakes out of the oven. Got a little device that goes beep, 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 beep when it hits 130. And like, my salmon's done then. Like, time is a proxy for temperature. So think about what you're measuring and measure it.
That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much for sharing this with us. We've been speaking with Jeff Potter. He is the author of Cooking for Geeks. If you've ever wanted to do some delicious, delicious science, this is the book to get. Jeff, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
I'm Father Robert Ballecer, and now that you know how, go cook it.
He made a 500-pound donut. Whoa. I was wondering where the leftovers went from Thanksgiving. That's a nice hat.
These are delicious, fashionable leftovers, I think. Yes, very much so.
We're going to answer another call with the turkey guy over here. But first, let's talk a little bit about Wealthfront. I think Wealthfront is an amazing solution to a problem a lot of you face. Now, maybe you don't know it yet, but you got to be saving. You young people, I got to tell you, you got to be saving. It's not just for your retirement. It's for a rainy day fund. It's for that, down payment on your house. It's for the college fund for kids. All this stuff adds up, and I hope you're saving. But what are you doing with that money? You're not putting it in a savings account at a bank, because you might as well just put it in your mattress if that's what you're doing. That is a bad idea. So you're investing, right? Good idea, but who's going to manage that investment? See, if you're like me, I said, I'm going to manage that investment, no problem. And then 10 years later, I wonder how that, I wonder how that investment's doing. I had no idea. I wasn't rebalancing it. I wasn't paying attention. That's not good either. Okay, let's get professional management. 1 to 3% of the money you have under investment with that manager is going into his pocket. Not to mention commissions, hidden fees of all kinds. You got to double your earnings just to break even. That's not a good idea either. I got a better solution. Wealthfront. It gives everybody access to professional class, long-term investment management. I'm not talking about day trading here. They are using software, the same kind of software day traders use, to keep an eye on your investment day in, day out. They are paying attention. They're rebalancing your portfolio. They're taking action whenever an opportunity arises. And this software is super smart. Of course it is. It's based on about 200 years combined knowledge about how the Wall Street works from people like Burton Malkiel, who wrote that incredible book called A Random Walk Down Wall Street. When I read that, I felt like my eyes were opened. Charles D. Ellis, Winning the Loser's Game. These are on the board that put together this software to make sure that you are getting the best return for your investment. And by the way, completely transparent. There's no mystery. You can view all your accounts in one place, whether it's personal, joint, retirement. You can see every trade they're making on your behalf. It's right there in the dashboard on your desktop or on their mobile app. And they're doing stuff that your broker's not going to do, you're not going to do, really only software can do, like tax loss harvesting, direct indexing. They're investing in categories that you probably don't have enough money to invest in. And for all of this, you pay an amazing 1/4% a year. 1/4, not 1%, 2%, 3%, 1/4% per year. We're talking less than $5 a month to invest in a $30,000 account, and there are never any additional charges. No commissions, no hidden fees. No wonder they got $2.6 billion under management right now. And you can get started for as little as $500. But I don't want you to get started. I want you to go to the website, wealthfront.com/NSS. I want you to read about this. Look this is your future you're talking about. Find out more about it. You can even get your free personalized investment portfolio. That you'll see exactly what they would do based on your answers to questions about risk and time frame and all of that stuff. This is absolutely free. Go to wealthfront.com/NSS. Just for Twit listeners, not only can you get started at $500, but if you sign up to invest, they're going to manage up to $15,000 free of charge and forever. So that really makes this good. You got to do this. I wish I could do it. Well, SEC rules say I can't. Wealthfront.com/NSS, your first $50,000 fee free. At least find out, read about it, okay? Just do me that. Read about it. And it'll make me very happy if you start putting that money away, because trust me, you're going to want it coming soon. For compliance purposes, I have to tell you, Wealthfront Incorporated is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are offered through Wealthfront Brokerage Corporation, member FINRA and SIPC. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing in securities involves risks, and there is the possibility of losing money. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Please visit wealthfront.com to read their full disclosure. Are you ready for another?
I am. Let's do it.
Give me another. It's call for help time. Brant is on the line from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Hi, Brant.
Hi, guys.
I think you're a guitar player, it looks like.
Well, like a lot of geeks, I like to pretend that I play guitar.
I like your naughty pie. Is that your man cave we're in right now?
It is absolutely my man cave. Yeah,
Is
man
that
cave
a
studio.
ukulele or a mandolin?
That's a ukulele.
Okay, got a ukulele. Nice.
Nice. Look at all that. So you actually do play that stuff?
I pretend to.
Yeah. And were you close friends with Nellie the Elephant? Is that why the headline back here, Glasgow bans Nellie the Elephant?
It was a very sad day. Yeah, very sad day. No, that was just too good. You know, the little newsstands that they had 20 years ago when they were giving out the dailies in Glasgow. And I saw that thing, and I just had to have it.
Were you a student in Scotland? Did you live there?
I did a semester at the University of Glasgow, yeah.
How fun is that? All right, I could tell that you are a trained professional because you have a Heil PR40 mic. Are you a podcaster? Are you a ham?
Yeah, co-host of the Gather Geeks podcast, which is a podcast for the meeting and events industry.
Whoa, that's an interesting niche. The Gather Geeks. What's the website?
It's bizbash.com/gathergeeks. So BizBash is the publisher.
How big is the media and event, the meeting and event industry?
It's huge, actually. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's one of the biggest industries that nobody knows about.
You're in the
I
wrong
mean,
house.
you think about all the meetings and events that are out there. I mean, it's just billions of dollars.
And what kind of stuff do you talk about on the show?
It's industry trends, the news, in our industry. We'll usually have interviews. Obviously, Twit's been a very big influence on me, so it's been patterned somewhat after you guys.
There it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, is this a full-time gig for you, or?
No, that's something I do on the side. I'm actually an event technology consultant for my main.
Now, I have to ask this. So you have conventions for this industry, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Meetings about meetings.
So you have conventions for people who want to hold conventions. This is probably the most meta guest we've ever had on the show.
I love it. Well, I'm really pleased to meet you, Brant. What can we do for you?
Well, as if I didn't have enough going on, I had an unsuccessful bid for school board just at the beginning of the month here.
Sorry about that.
Unfortunately, did not get in. I was running mainly on a technology platform. Did pretty well considering nobody knew me to begin with. But it was great. I learned a lot about local politics and getting involved in the schools. And so I've decided to join the tech committees.
Yay.
And I'm definitely going to stay involved. We're getting very close to having a one device per child system in place. We're starting to do some pilot programs with Chromebooks.
Good.
And so I'm 90% sure that's the direction we want to go.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get your current take on technology in schools. Obviously, I've heard in the past you guys mentioning and pushing Chromebooks, so we're going in that direction already. Is there anything else that we're not thinking about? And then the second half of that question is a significant portion of our community is lower income.
Right.
So I do have some concern about how do we, it's great that we're giving these devices to all of the kids, but when they take it home and they don't necessarily have high-speed broadband access or even any internet access, how do we help these kids along as well?
Boy, really good questions. And as you know, I do have a really big interest in this. I served on the board of my kids' high school. I served on the technology committee here in Petaluma. And so I'm with you. I think this is a really important subject, especially in an area where kids are lower income and it's not likely that they're going to have this technology at home. It's so important for them to get access to this and learn these skills so that they can be at parity with everybody else when they get in the workforce.
I love Chromebooks. In fact, I've been pushing them at our school because they did the iPad deployment 3 years ago, and it's a disaster. Very expensive, hard to manage, and they really didn't get a whole lot of return on their investment. Chromebooks are much less expensive. They're much easier to manage from a central location. But as you mentioned, one of the issues of a Chromebook is if you have no internet connectivity,
there's not a lot you can do with it.
Yeah, it's really reduced functionality. So there is one new development, not a super new development, but not a lot of people are talking about it. And that's something like this.
What is that?
This is the Windows version of a Chromebook.
Oh, no, don't do this to me.
This is a cloud book.
Oh, you're going to break my heart,
So
Robert.
here's the thing. Less expensive than a Chromebook. This is $149.
Yeah.
It's better spec'd than a Chromebook. It's a dual-core Celeron, 2 gigabytes of memory, 32 or 64 gigabytes of SSD space, either an 11.6 or a 14-inch screen, depending on what configuration you want. It is Windows 10, so it's full Windows 10 plus you get 1 year of Microsoft 365 with it, which means you get a terabyte of cloud storage. So
wow, that's very aggressive, I have to say.
It's super aggressive, and here's the thing. Even if you have no connectivity, they take these home, you still have Office on this.
Yeah.
You can still do something with it.
That's an interesting point. I think, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Brant, one of the big issues, you know, you probably have budget to buy some device. The big issue is going to be after you buy the device. Who's going to train the teachers, who's going to support the teachers, and who's going to run the network, who's going to maintain them. And those costs easily exceed the cost of the initial purchase. So that's one of the reasons I really think a Windows device is a bad idea. It's just going to require a lot more resources after the fact to maintain those, to keep viruses off of them, to maintain the network. A Chromebook is a lot more bulletproof in that
Which is
regard.
why I recommended a Chromebook.
Yeah. Now, I do agree with you, an iPad's a terrible idea. The LA Unified School District raised, what was it, a $30 million bond? It was even more than that, I think. To buy iPads for everybody in the LA Unified School District was a horrific failure. They're suing Apple, they're suing the curriculum company Pearson, saying, you know, we never used them. They end up in the back of the school. An iPad is a sexy device, and I think a lot of school boards say, oh, we're going to get a lot of attention for this. I don't think it's a great one-to-one device. I think Chromebook for price is really fantastic. You didn't mention what grades we're talking about, Brant.
As far as I can tell, we're going down the road of basically all the students in the district.
K through 12?
Yeah, I mean, it's they're rolling it out slowly. I don't have all of the details on that. That's still, you know, coming into play right now. You know, they've started piloting it. The good news is it looks like they're not going to make the same mistakes as LA. They're piloting it with the teachers, so the teachers can get comfortable first.
Very important.
And then they're going to be rolling it through, through the district.
I feel for the teachers. They get thrown technology. They say, here, you deal with it. You figure out how to use this.
That almost never works.
And it doesn't work. And there's a lot of teachers who don't know how this stuff works. The kids may know better than the teachers do. This is kind of a recipe for disaster. So somebody in the chat room, Crucial Wax, is saying he heard of one school board that took their school buses, put Wi-Fi access spots in the two school buses so the kids can compute on the way home, and then parked them in the neighborhood so the kids would still have access. I think it's that kind of innovative thinking that might solve your problem. But also, I feel like it's fine for the kids to only be able to use them at school. I don't think using them at home is necessarily as important. In fact, I know some school districts don't even let the kids bring them home. The key is to get them on those computers at some point, get them used to using it. And as important as Windows 10 is, I think any experience with the cloud, with computing, is going to be useful for these kids. And there's so many choices for curricula out there.
And you're dead on the management spot. I mean, it is more difficult.
That's a huge expense.
It's more difficult to manage Windows than it is going to be to manage a Chromebook. But as Leo already mentioned, if along with this plan, don't just think about the hardware, you actually have to give them a good idea.
You need a plan
of what they're going to do with it. Because you can't just say, hey, your students all have Chromebooks now, go figure it out.
Our local school district here, I feel so bad for Michael, our 12-year-old. They had Chromebooks. Every kid got a login. They were using them. It was great. And then they got a grant and they said, get rid of the Chromebooks. We're getting iPads. And no one knows how to use it. They don't know what they're doing. The one good thing they're doing is they're using the cameras on the iPads and the iMovie video editing to make podcasts of all things. And I'm thrilled to see that happening there. And the kids love that because they love making media. So there are some things you can do with an iPad. But I think a plan is the most important thing. And if I were in your shoes, Brant, I'd push for that. What are we going to do with this? What curriculum, what problem is it going to solve? Because it's really easy to spend a lot of money and get nothing out of it. So what problems are we going to solve? How is this going to help us in our day-to-day? And boy, if the teachers are not enlisted as partners, that has to come first, because they will torpedo this faster than anything. That's what happened in LA Unified School District. They said, put those iPads in the back here. Now let's go to school. They'll just torpedo it fast.
I love that you're doing this, though, Brant.
Oh, I do too.
Thank you very much.
They need people like you. It's great. Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, that's my hope, is that by staying involved, I can make sure that we've got everything planned out. We're not going to rush into anything.
Yeah. That was, funnily enough, that was always my role on the board, was the anti-technology guy. I was always the guy, because anybody who's worked in technology long enough knows that this road is paved with peril. And it's very easy for people who don't know technology to get all excited. Well, this is the future. This is what, and say, it might be better to teach them how to read and write first, and then we can think about how to keyboard.
I have played a couple of different roles in our school system, the Jesuit school system, and as we call them development, fundraiser. As a fundraiser, the easiest thing to raise money for is technology because it's glitzy.
Yeah.
But the most important thing to raise money for is curriculum, and no one gives money for curriculum.
Yeah. Well, the good news is by getting these kids online, there's Coursera, there's Udacity, there's so much. Any kid who's motivated today can learn, and that really levels the playing field for everybody. And I find that very exciting. And so that's the first step, is getting them comfortable with getting online, because everything's out there available for them. Brant, so nice to talk to you. Give us the URL for your podcast again for people in the meeting and conference industry.
It's bizbash, bizbash.com/gathergeeks.
All right. The next time you're on, you got to tell us about Nellie the elephant. The sad saga of Nellie the elephant. Hey, thanks, Brent. Great to talk to you.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. All right. If you want us to answer your tech questions, who's on next week? We like to tailor this for the Aaron Newcomb.
Ooh, maker questions.
That's exciting. Yeah, get your maker questions in. Here's how you could be on the show next week.
Need tech help? The new screensavers are here with answers. Email your tech questions to newscreensavers@twit.tv.
Viewer email coming up in just a bit, but Scott Wilkinson answers probably the most important question in home theater. How big should your screen be?
Hi, this is Scott Wilkinson, host of Home Theater Geeks here on the Twit Network, and here's a tip for you. Most people buy TVs that are too small for the distance they sit from them. The typical seating distance in most homes is around 10 feet. And the rule to follow, that I follow, that most professionals follow, is that you want to be sitting about 3 times the screen height if you're watching high-definition TV. That is 1080p. If you're watching 4K or ultra-high-def TV, you want to be sitting 1.5 times the screen height, twice as close. Now, what does this mean? At a seating distance of 10 feet for high definition, the screen size, the optimum screen size, is 70 inches. Now, with ultra high definition or 4K, you want to make that distance half. So you either want to sit 5 feet away from a 70-inch TV, or if you're sitting 10 feet away, you want a 140-inch diagonal TV. That's a huge TV. And it's impractical for most people. But the main point I want to make here is don't think your TV is going to be too large. It's probably not.
You know, a 140-inch TV, you'd have to take you can't get that through the door. What, are you going to fold it in half?
My room is not 140 inches wide, so...
You'd have to open the roof and drop it in with a helicopter.
Or through the window.
Yeah, or maybe he's thinking projection.
So you can fold it up.
But even your wall's probably not 140 inches.
A 4K projector. I love Scott, but that's kind of big.
That's a little big.
That's a little bit big for me.
Thank you, Scott Wilkinson. You can catch Scott, of course, on Home Theater Geeks. He's on what day? That's that Friday, I think we do. Huh?
Thursdays.
Thursdays. All right. 2 p.m. I'm just I'm throwing darts. I don't know.
Yeah, 2:30.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, okay.
Sometime.
Yeah,
just
sure.
watch every minute and you won't miss it. But it is actually a great show. And of course, he joins us every weekend on the Tech Guys show on Saturdays at 10:30 a.m. I know that one. All right, let's have it. It's time for the mailbag.
Ow. It's a good thing that we ground down the edges so it's not sharp.
I'm waiting for my fingers to get ready. This is not a mailbag. Oh my goodness. And of course, each and every week we put something in the mailbox that's specially designed for our co-host.
I hope it's not Dinty.
I hope it's not Balut. Oh, happy Thanksgiving.
There
a
we
little
go.
jellied cranberry sauce. And we didn't have time to make sweet potato casserole, so we just gave you cut sweet potatoes.
I am a weird, I do not like sweet potatoes, but I actually don't like cranberry on turkey.
I thought you talked to him before we did.
I'm a gravy guy. I like gravy.
I do. I like gravy too. You know what I want to make maybe today? Because we're, well, I'll talk about this another time. Never mind.
Never mind.
Enough Thanksgiving leftovers. This is not leftover. This is brand new.
It's the mailbag.
Fresh for you from our audience. I shall start from Corey. I'm looking for a backup solution. Oh, you're going to have to help me with this one. That I can use to back up my computers. I have 2 secure locations with great bandwidth. I'd like to use a self-hosted solution like Carbonite, but not Carbonite. Is there such a software for the Mac and PC available? Love them to show. I'll tell you what I do. I use transporters.
Yes.
This is a company that was started by Drobo. And the file transporter for about $100, you get a little puck. And you connect it to your network, and you connect it to a USB drive. I put 2 terabyte, 3 terabyte USB drives on it. And you can have one at home and one at work. That's what I do. Then you use the transport. It's kind of like Dropbox. It'll sync to the transporter. It does it over the network. But, and this is the best part, the transporters sync with one another. So all of my most important data is hosted locally on my computer, on my local transporter on the LAN, and then on my remote transporter either at work or home. So this way I have an off-site copy of all my data. It's completely transparent. That's the transporter with built-in drive, but what I would do is not get that one, but get the little puck that's $99, and you provide your own storage.
Yeah, you plug in a USB drive.
Now, the thing to learn about that, as I learned to my peril, is it formats the drive with a proprietary format. So you can't just put stuff on the drive. You can't use the drive without reformatting it. And you really don't want to just take it off and say, oh, I got my data here. You have to use a transporter. I'm not sure why they do that. Probably something to do with the data duplication. But that's one way to do it. What do you suggest?
I actually like a similar solution. I'm not big on software only, just because in my experience, it's kind of a weak sauce solution, especially if you've got 2 secure, dedicated spaces that you can put something.
I'm betting you use Synology NAS.
I use Synology NAS. I found nothing better. Get something like a Synology 213 if you want to save money. I mean, you can get a complete setup.
Is that a 2-drive
It's
Synology?
a 2-drive bay Synology, all the way up to...
These are RAID arrays, right? So there's multiple drives, a lot of capacity, but they're redundant. Probably hot swappable too. If you have a fail, you can put another drive in. Yeah.
But here's the nice thing. If you get 2 of these units, they will rsync with one another, which does just like the transporter. It's the best way to do it. And it will also do time machine. So if you wanted to keep revisions of your data, you're not going to accidentally wipe out, a set of data because you overwrote it. And then of course you get the additional benefit of it being a fantastic NAS. You can run so many plugins on that, from Plex for your media to sharing your photos. I mean, if you want to make yourself a homebrew storage / media / email / security server, that's what a Synology is perfect for. And the nice thing is, it's so fast. So if you have it hooked up to your home network, not only will you be able to pull and work directly off of the NAS, but anytime you change something, it will automatically sync to the other device, which means you've got a backup copy.
This is a more pricey way to do it, of course.
Yes.
Maybe 3 times, 4 times more expensive.
Definitely.
But much more robust. So, it kind of depends on your price point. But that is obviously the best way to do it.
There is actually another wrinkle to that, which is if you've got tech friends, I've got plenty of tech friends, and
them have one too.
Yes, which gives, and then you give each other a partition that mirrors your partition, so you both get backup.
Yeah. Off-site backup is the key here, and that's what Carbonite offers. That's what we've been talking about, the idea that your data isn't just home, but somewhere else in case, a fire or something, and you don't want your backups to be, some backups can be next to your data, but you want some backups somewhere else. Finally, the last way, of course, would be use something like Amazon's S3 storage. They have something called Glacier as well, which is designed for backup, but it's slow retrieval, but it's a lot cheaper. There used to be a program called Jungle Disk, which I just loved, and this is what I used to do. Jungle Disk you could run on any computer and it would back up your data to S3. It would do synchronization. Jungle Disk got sold. I think it was not as good in the new version. Something went wrong with that.
We abandoned it.
Yeah.
Glacier is nice, but as you mentioned, it is slow. It is very, very slow.
Because they don't actually have it online, right? They have to go get it.
It's nearline.
I got your data. It's in the back. I'll be back tomorrow.
But they charge you very minimally for storage, but they get you when you actually want to download.
Right. So, but that's when you need it, and maybe you're willing to pay because that's my precious data, right? Do you have one? No. One of these?
Oh, yeah. I mean, right now?
I think we answered the question.
Yes, we did.
Do you feel like we answered the question?
I think so.
We gave you 3 different solutions.
Let's go on. We've got a question here from Bob. I love the name.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, Bob. I'm hoping you can provide some insight for me with my home automation. I've been slowly replacing all of my light switches and adding various Z-Wave devices to my house. When I started, I figured it was a standard that would be able to interoperate with Apple's HomeKit. Oh, Bob.
Actually, go ahead. Keep
It's
going,
coming.
'cause there's a good news.
I have yet to see a HomeKit-compatible hub for these devices. I have SmartThings currently, and it works well enough, but do you have any idea if there are any products on the horizon that will allow me to control these standard Z-Wave devices with Siri?
This is the deeply frustrating part
Yes,
of
it
home
is.
automation. In principle, it seems so wonderful, but it's not yet doing what you want it to do. What you want is something like HAL 9000. You want to be able to talk to your house and have it do stuff for you. And we're just not quite there yet. I mean, you can do stuff. I understand the first Z-Wave devices for HomeKit are starting to come out now.
Yes.
So that may be the solution. Because wouldn't you love to be able to talk to Siri? But I don't even think Apple's HomeKit is fully baked yet.
No, and this has always been the Achilles heel of home automation, which is everyone lives in a little walled garden.
Right.
SmartThings tried to break that down. And by the way,
That was the idea.
They've been a sponsor of the Twit TV network.
Yep,
So
there's a
disclaimer.
disclaimer.
But and they've tried to make a device that can talk the different protocols and the different languages of all the different devices. But you figure, especially with HomeKit, it's like people want to use it. Why create a proprietary standard? Just use something that's there and get it out in the market.
Yeah.
It's been on the
frustrating.
horizon forever.
You know what is close? Believe it or not, my Amazon Echo. We're starting to be able to talk to the Echo and do things like turn on lights using SmartThings and close the garage door. I can now talk to the automatic on my car. Somebody was just telling me this. I can ask my Echo, how much gas is in my car? Do I need to fill up before I go to work? And it knows because it's communicating with the automatic. So our Amazon's the dark horse here. They already have the speech. They're starting to build in these technologies. And of course, we're waiting to see what Google's going to do. Remember the Google OnHub routers seem to be really a stealth home automation device, but they haven't turned that feature on yet. It seems like home automation is Zeno's paradox. We seem like we're cutting the distance by half every time, but we never quite get there, right? We're getting closer and closer, but it's still just outside of our reach.
And actually right now, even though there's a lot of activity, some major manufacturers, Apple and Samsung and Google and Amazon, even Microsoft are getting into home automation.
Right.
You'd think, oh, this is good, but what it really means is they're all trying to get you to use their solution. So we're going to have the same problem we had 5 years ago and 5 years before that and 5 years before that, right?
Yeah.
Until someone comes up with a knockout blow that has either the critical mass or buys up enough of its competitors that it's the only solution.
That's why you look at Apple for something like this, because it's got to be somebody who's kind of a dominant player. Google, Apple, Microsoft, not out of the box yet. And Amazon might be the dark horse, but I'm agree with you right now. It's just an exercise in frustration. That's why we recommend SmartThings. It's the first and only one so far that managed to tie a bunch of systems together, but even it doesn't solve the whole problem yet.
So I think this is a long way of saying, Bob, sorry, but just use the one that works best for you right now. Don't wait for something on the horizon.
Don't expect too much. Padre, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm glad you could join us on our post-prandial, post-Thanksgiving episode.
Well, right now, I'm probably in a turkey coma, would be my guess. 'Cause I love me some turkey.
I love me some turkey,
That tryptophan, no, that goes straight to the head.
So we should explain that because of Thanksgiving, we recorded this ahead of time. And so we haven't actually eaten our turkey yet.
In my mind, I have.
In my mind, I'm eating it right now. I'm doing a ham and a turkey. And I want to make some red-eye gravy. Have you ever had red-eye gravy?
What is red-eye? What is
It's got coffee in it.
Wait, what?
It's ham gravy. You probably know about that, Jerry. You're from Kentucky. They must make red-eye there, right? Is it Kentucky?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. It's all the same to me. It's got coffee in it, and I figure anything that can put me to sleep and wake me up, I'm all in.
Wait a minute, wait. It's gravy with coffee in it, so can I drink it like it's coffee?
No. Well,
because I would do that.
Another question that remains to be answered. Thanks
Can
for
you
joining
eat
us.
that?
We'll see you next time on the new Screensavers. Bye-bye, everybody.